Okay, we ready? Ms. Waller, does that mean we're ready? Okay, thank you. All righty. Good morning, everybody. This is the regular meeting of the Fulton County Board of Registration and Elections. It's May 12th, 2022 at 10 a.m. We're going to begin the meeting, and the first thing I need to do is call the meeting to order. So we are now called to order, and I'd ask for a motion to approve the agenda.
So moved.
Second.
Properly moved and seconded. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, there are none. The motion passes. The agenda is approved, and we will now hear from the public. I've got the list. Thank you all for filling out the cards. We have an email from Carrie Hefner, and Ms. Robinson's going to read it.
Hello, I'm writing to you as a Fulton County voter who encountered issues with the SOS website. I wanted to get an early start last month researching primary candidates, but when I pulled up a sample ballot from the My Voter page, it only contained the nonpartisan races and none of the primary candidates. There was no message saying, "In progress, please come back on X date for the full list." The sample ballot was also linked in tiny print in the middle of the page and thus hard to find. Additionally, just this morning, I looked for a list of early voting locations and sorted it to find the location nearest me. The top 3 locations were streets I'd never heard of because they are not actually close to me. I had to manually search for locations I remembered from voting previously. This is a poor experience for the average voter. One should not have to doggedly search, click, and squint to find basic voting information. I asked the BRE to continue being clear about which issues you are working on and which issues are the SOS failing to implement a usable voter website. Thank you so much for all you do. Carrie Hefner.
Thank you. All right, next speaker, Kathy Whitehouse.
My name is Kathy Whitehouse, and I live up in Roswell. And I'm here to remind all of us how important you all are, because everyone is looking at Georgia. I've been poll watching, very impressed with the people who've been working at the polls, but I know that some folks have some concerns about what's going on. So I'm here to share a very passionate plea that we pay attention to their concerns. For example, I work in real estate. We had someone not sell their house this week because a $600,000 wire was intercepted by a hacker. What does that have to do with today? Our vote is priceless. And I'm hearing stories about that there are more scanned votes than actual body counts of people who came in to vote. I'm hearing stories that after the voting polls are closed, the scanners are still on. I'm hearing that the people who work at the libraries work longer hours, and therefore people outside of the voting could have access to the scanners and commit fraud. And I want our votes to be fair and accurate. So I've got some other friends of mine who are going to be talking about some specifics because I'm new to poll watching, but I just want us to listen and understand how important it is that our elections are fair. Thank you.
Thank you. Appreciate it. Lucia Frazier.
Good morning.
Morning.
Lucia Frazier. In this current election, I was obstructed from recording seal numbers. The poll manager literally walked up as I was standing at the scanner and covered the seals with her hands. I laughed because I thought she was joking with me, since we had a good relationship last year, and she had showed me all her books last year and showed me the process, very, very good at explaining it. And so I told her last year I collected the counts and seal numbers at many precincts, so why suddenly is this a problem? She would not give me an answer. So I'd like you guys to address that today in your conversation. This physical obstruction makes me suspicious. In fact, last year, a different poll manager advised me that making sure those seal numbers don't change is one of the most important things I need to do as a poll watcher. So there are certain seals on the BMDs and the scanners that should never change through all of early voting. The seal on the scanner memory card port and the seal on the admin port should never change. Cutting that seal means someone can take out the memory card which stores people's votes. The memory card is only one of two things in an election's existence that represents people's votes. The other item is the papers that are in the scanner. If someone from the general public is obstructed from verifying the seal has not changed, the memory card is now outside that chain of custody and cannot be used to tally the votes. The seals on the scanner bin protect access to the paper version of people's votes. Cutting those seals means someone can put in unauthorized
30
paper
seconds.
votes to the bin. One of the seals on the BMD protect the software. If that's cut, someone can access the software and change it to reprogram the QR code. You have a lot of money for this election, and so far it's not any more secure than just using $1 million and just use paper, pencil, and hand counting.
Thank you. Jason Frazier?
Hello, my name is Jason Frazier from Roswell. Similar to what Lucia said, I heard her story and I was very suspicious about that branch. So I went there the same evening that she was not allowed to see the scanner locks, serial numbers. I just sat in the lobby just to be observant. Next morning, I went there as a member of the public to observe the opening of the polls. That did not go so well, as I'm sure many of you know now. I've submitted a formal complaint. I could speak all day on what happened there, but essentially, the long and short of it is I went there, I was told that I could not go in there as a member of the public. I was asked to stand outside. They locked the doors, which locking the doors is not supposed to happen. Then they called the police on me. I would consider that intimidation. The police officer, I handed her the statute, which clearly states that the public can observe the opening of the polls. That police officer, with the statute in hand, said that's not relevant because I was not a poll officer. That sure does seem like obstruction. And I know if I were that police, if the shoe were on the other foot and I said, I'm going to break the law, but I don't know the law, they would say ignorance of the law is not an excuse for breaking the law. She had the law in her hands. She cannot claim that she was ignorant of the law. So the poll manager did not let me in. They had the doors locked. They asked me to go outside. I waited outside. I got there at 8:56 a.m.
30 seconds.
I waited outside until 11 o'clock just in case she wanted to be an upstanding person and come outside to talk to me because she said she was going to call her manager. She never returned. All of this is on the camera. It's all on my complaint. I hope something changes. I plan to go back to Roswell and be a poll watcher. And hopefully some things are different and I don't get arrested. Thank you.
Thank you. Susie Trotashod. I am so sorry. I do this every week, every meeting, and I apologize for not saying your name right.
You did a great job.
Thank you.
My name is Susie Trotashod. I am a voter in Fulton County, and other than my college years, I have lived in Atlanta my entire life. I want to thank the board for your tireless work on behalf of the Fulton County voters, but I mostly want to thank all of those working in the Fulton County Department of Registration and Elections. You are the ones that do the work every day to make sure that we, Fulton County residents, are able to vote for the candidates we want. Your work for this election began long ago, but now it's crunch time. Thank you for working carefully and thoroughly to make sure that every vote is counted and that no votes that should be counted are disregarded. You are under a lot of scrutiny, so you need to be extra vigilant in your duties. We, the voters, are counting on you. I ask the board to help you by making sure that you have the resources you need to do your jobs, that they support your work and the work of the poll workers. I encourage all of you to work hard to process the ballots in a timely manner and do all that you can to help voters with any issues they have in their applications or ballots. We need you to make sure that our votes count. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, that concludes the public comment. Thank you all. That public comment? Did you fill out a form? I don't have it. Yeah, you may speak, but I need to get a form from you, please. You can just fill one out.
Hello, I'm Earl Ferguson. I'm a resident and voter in Fulton County, and I'm working as a poll watcher, and I'm doing it in a number of different locations. I've been to 6 so far, and I'll have a couple more before it's over. And I have some observations I'd like to share. Now, I'm not an expert on poll stuff, obviously, and I'm reminded of the official definition of a of an expert. An X is a has-been, and a spurt's a drift under pressure. That was supposed to be a joke. At the locations that I have been, all the locations I've been to so far, there was more staff than was needed for the voter turnout. And I hope you'll give that some consideration, because we're going to have the follow-up elections, runoff elections, and the turnout will probably be even lower. Next comment, the Sunday turnout was an absolute disaster. One location had 3 people all day, and the total average was way, way down from what it was. My suggestion is that maybe the Sunday poll period should be started after church is over and run a shorter period during the afternoon. That would save us a lot of time, money, and anguish.
30 seconds.
I'm sorry?
30 seconds.
All right. Not all I saw was bad, and most of the operations were very clean, but there's one location that I would like to single out for comment. The New Beginnings Senior Citizen serves an elderly clientele who wouldn't be able to vote otherwise. That place is outstanding. Don't ever close it, and if you can find some more like it, I'd suggest that we reopen them.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Would you fill out the form for us, please? We just need it for the record. All right. We're going to move on to old business, which would mean approving of the minutes. We have the minutes of the regular meeting, March 10th, April 14th, and then special called meetings on April 21st, May 3rd, and May 5th. We can take these singularly or all together as you wish. Okay, looks like everybody kind of wants to do all together. Would somebody make a motion, please?
Madam Chair, I make a motion that we approve these regular and special meeting minutes of the dates listed.
Second.
Properly moved and seconded. All those in favor of approving the minutes in the old business of our agenda, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? There are none. The motion passes. Thank you. I'm going to ask Ms. Williams to give us the monthly operations report, please.
Good morning, Madam Chair and members of the board. I will start with the Elections Division report. For the month of May, the House District 45 special election runoff election went well. It was conducted with advanced voting, and of course, Election Day, there was no problems reported. In regards to supplies and logistics, equipment and supply deployment for advanced voting for the May 24th election, of course, was conducted. Staff is they're currently supporting advanced voting with daily supply requests and are currently packing supplies for the May 24th Election Day polling sites. In regards to the absentee drop boxes, the courier temporary staffs have been onboarded and they're supporting those locations as well. And the rental vehicles utilized for those locations are also in place. Poll worker recruitment is on target. We are concluding training and ensuring that all positions are staffed for Election Day. And I will actually allow Ms. Benjamin to give a summary of how advanced voting is going as of today.
Hello, good morning. I'd like to title advanced voting as teamwork. As of today, from May 2nd, as present, we have processed about 30,000 voters. We have been faced with unexpected challenges, but with each challenge, the department has put an action plan in place to make sure that our staff is effective at each location. We continue to support advanced voting team through Zoom meetings. We have individual one-on-one site visits to troubleshoot any problems that any staff may arise. We also have every morning, we have a phone checkup to make sure that sites arrive on time and to quickly solve any issues. We're doing all of this just to make sure that staff is productive. And with every challenge that we're faced, staff has rise to the occasion. But our main objective is to make sure that every voter gets an opportunity to vote and no voters are turned away. And with this, I'd like to thank the staff, the AV staff, for helping us, Fulton County, make a difference. During the pandemic time, I have to add this. Election workers have sacrificed their own health and safety so that we can be able to vote. And I even have them come in on weekends. So with all the hard work and dedication, and they're still returning, even though we're faced with obstacles. And board members and all the stakeholders, I want to say thank you. That's my little smart reports. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, administration.
Wait, yeah. you
I'm
wanna
so
say
sorry.
Couple questions as it relates to early voting. Obviously, the first question is going to be about ENET and where we are with that and how's it going. I've had quite a few people call about having an issue with their ballots and then getting a second ballot. One I even told you about that she didn't feel comfortable and she's going back, but just different people when they go and get their ballots and the redistricting and then they realize that they have the wrong one. So where are we with that?
Okay, so we have, in regards to ENET, we have figured out a workaround in regards to that aspect. So that's not an issue at this time in regard, because we have a spreadsheet that we're working off of, and staff has been informed what to do in regards to that. Any other issues that have come about, we have asked the voters to make sure that they tell the poll manager if they believe their ballot is incorrect, to advise the poll manager so that they can correct it on site. They have been asked to call the call center to verify their voting district and any information before they cast their ballot. So that's what we're trying to emphasize that to voters. If you believe your ballot is incorrect, please do not cast it so we can verify if you've been redistricted correctly, if all the information is correct before you cast your ballot. We have ample time to fix any situation, whether it's ENET, whether it's a data entry error on our end. We're asking you to check that information before you cast your ballot. We're doing some cross-checking now with our staff to make sure a voters are moved correctly into their district with redistricting. So that's what we're working on at this time.
So if I were a voter and I walk in and I don't know that my district has changed or anyone, because me personally, I have a new commissioner, I have a new state rep, but I think everybody else is still the same. What are we doing to try to alert voters prior to them getting their ballot of what they can do or how they can see what their new districts are, or even if they have new districts?
Right. Since the first day of advanced voting, we created posters that have a QR code on them. You can scan it with your phone. We have flyers that we give people when they walk in that has the same QR code that leads you to a redistricting map that lets you put in your address and shows you exactly where your house is, what your districts are. If you don't want to use your phone, we also set up a laptop. At every advanced voting location, we can sit down and go into our landing page and do the research before you get your ballot. So all those things are available for voter to use at every single advanced voting location. It's on our website if they want to do it from home. If they want to come out, do it at if the advanced voting location is also available. But it's been there since the first day of voting.
Okay, and people are being alerted to this when they walk in?
Yes, sir. There's posters in the precinct, and there's actual flyers that we had made prior to the first day to hand people from the line monitors and say, here, if you have any questions about redistricting, here's the landing page, here's a QR code. All that stuff's available for voter research on site.
Okay. And issues, so right now, is my voter page updated, or is it still an issue? Or people still having issues with it? And I know that's not us. I know that's the Secretary of State's office, but I'm just asking. As people are looking up, they're going to my voter page to look it up, correct?
Yes, but if you look at the My Voter page, there is a disclaimer on there that asks people to click on every tab. Because the ballot is so large, it could not fit on one tab. So whatever party you are, you need to click on every tab to see the entire ballot. So if you read the disclaimer, and it doesn't only affect Fulton County, it affects other counties, it literally says, click on multiple tabs to view the entire ballot. But again, if they don't see that information, they can call our office, or whatever county that they reside in, they can call their county to get that information.
Well, I appreciate that, but I mean in the sense of, are the districts correct on my voter page now? Because if you recall, before, when you went on my voter page and you looked up information, it wasn't quite correct. But I'm wondering, I'm just making sure that that information is correct now.
Well, again, My Voter page is not, I can't answer that because we don't own that page. So if the voter believes that it's incorrect, they would need to call the SOS or call our office to verify.
Okay. That's it.
Thanks so much, Nadine. So can you, to Aaron, Mr. Johnson's point, how many voters do we think were impacted by perhaps not getting the right ballot and voting? I know that Cobb may have had, I think, a little over 100 people that may have been impacted by that. Do you know how many for Fulton?
We are doing a research right now, district by district, to see what that number would be. I can't give you an exact number this time, but I do know for the ones that we have research is very, very minimal. It would not be a number that would affect the outcome of an election, but I can get you those exact numbers by the end of the week.
Okay, great, thank you.
I wanted to ask about the poll workers for Election Day. The numbers here were short 60 clerks. Is that what am I reading that right?
I think it was, you said 60 clerks?
Yeah.
Yes, so they're still actively recruiting. So that, we have no doubt that those numbers will be, those positions will be filled between now and Election Day.
Okay, all right. Thank you so much. And I wanted to say to the public, from all the early vote locations I have visited, everyone's doing a wonderful job. So thank you.
Let me follow up on something I brought to you all's attention a few days ago that has affected APO 7A, B, and C. And evidently, from the reports that I have, been called about, that for whatever reason, I think, just so that it is clear why this occurred, that a voter that now is in C, APO 7C, should get a ballot that reflects House District 49. And as of yesterday, another incident occurred, I think I alerted you to, that a voter went in, he is in C, but got his ballot reflected an HD 47 candidate. So my understanding is to date, and I'm just going by what I was told yesterday, that there's been 7 occurrences of those that are known. Now, I don't know all of whom those are. I haven't gotten names and all of that, but I understand there's been 7 of those incidents. I understand that by what I've been told by staff is that there is not a redo process on that. You cannot go back and, do another ballot. So, excuse me, it is what it is. But is that fixed now? I mean, what's in place so that, I don't even know how many voters are in C because that's all in the consolidation, factor. So I can look at the big number, but I don't know exactly, what the number of voters are in C. But that would seem to me to be the audience that we're looking at that would be affected when they come in to vote, if in fact they come in to vote. Plus, the issue, I'm assuming, transcends into an absentee ballot. So, again, no idea how many people in that particular precinct requested an absentee ballot, but I'm making an assumption that the same issue would occur.
Right, but, okay, so for that particular precinct, it was a data entry error for one of our staff persons that did not move those people into that precinct. We are able to pull exactly who voted from the first day of advanced voting to current day.
Sure.
And see exactly how many people those affected. I don't want to give a number at this point. I want to say it's roughly less than 30, but we can give you that exact count. But in regards to that, we are doing, it has been corrected, so they would not affect anyone past this point. But like I said, there's over 2,000 people in that district, and it affected roughly 30 people.
2,000?
Yes.
Okay. Briefly, but to follow with that, if these votes or ballots to these voters that have, then went in, made their selections, and something to check on, did any of those voters in C who should be voting for HD 49 candidate, if you will, did any of them vote for the HD 47 candidate? And if they did, how do we reconcile that? Because I would consider that to be an illegal vote.
We will have to research that, but I'll have to discuss that with the Secretary of State
Okay.
at this point. But I don't believe, yeah, we'll have to discuss that.
My job is just to bring this to the front.
Right, it's brought to our attention. We're doing the research on it
Clearly not to
now.
do the research.
Right, but like, again, it is very minimal, and I do not believe it's going to affect the outcome of the election in any way. But it's very, so minimal that it will not affect the outcome.
Yeah.
But like I said, I will give you those exact
Yeah,
numbers.
Ms. Williams, I agree that it may not affect the outcome, particularly this is a primary, but I think we all hopefully would agree that these kind of things, we do have time before the general election, because we certainly, I don't think, want this cropping back up in our face.
Agreed.
Thank you. Thank you.
Well, there was another, if we could just look at, I think it was Commissioner Arrington's seat as well, that race, and there were some issues around his ballot. Just as you're looking, investigating, maybe investigate that as well to see how many
Yeah.
voters may have been affected.
As a precaution, we're going to just review all races to be
Okay.
on the safe side.
Great.
And I just want to thank the staff. I know that there has been just a tremendous amount of work trying to get redistricting done on top of some of the complications with transitions to new software programs and reversals of that and things like that. But one of the things that we want to make sure that we do well here is aim for perfection on our side. And so we're looking at that. We're going to continue to work on that. And I just appreciate all the time everybody's put into it. And looking forward to voting myself in the next day or so. So thank you.
Okay, administration.
Good morning, everyone. Let me first introduce our new team member, Ms. Janice Dickinson. She has filled the position of our administrative manager. She comes to us from the Department of Public Works, bringing a wealth of knowledge and experience within the county. So welcome, and we're happy to have her. During the month of April, we had the following vacancies: registration manager position, which was posted and closed out for that posting. We will be scheduling those interviews hopefully within the next week. The elections officer position will also need to be posted, and we're working with the relevant departments to post the voter education outreach specialist. During the month of April, we prepared the credentials and badges for the poll watcher for advanced voting for the Republican, Democrat, and Libertarian parties. The campaign contribution disclosure report was open and due April 30th. It extended that deadline to last week, May 6th. For those that failed to report, will be forwarded over to the State Finance Commission. We're continuing to maintain and prepare for the November and December runoff elections pertaining to the budgets. And last month, all the IGAs were received from the City of Atlanta, East Point, Hateville, and South Fulton, and approved by the Board of Registration and Elections. And that concludes the Administrative Division's report.
Questions? Terry? Sorry.
Are we doing registration next?
Yeah.
Okay,
Well,
I'll wait
Are we
then.
doing registration then? Yeah.
Let me ask a quick question on the open positions. At this point in time of the year, what kind of an impact is that on the department by not having these positions with employees?
I mean, we need the position, so it's, but we always find a way. So again, that's why we're trying to work as best as possible within the, I guess, parameters of conducting the election, as well as still operating and fulfilling my administrative duties. So again, we'll be working as we can to schedule these and get these filled as possible, soon as possible.
But does it create, or is it, or can it create to where tasks that you have in front of you are clearly more difficult to attain by not having these people?
I think it kind of pulls on that area when there is a vacancy a little more so without that particular position. But again, we find a way to still work through it. Does that answer your question?
So bottom line, you need to get these positions filled as fast as you can.
Always, yes, sir. Whenever we have a vacancy, the ideal is to fill.
Seems
as
like though,
fast as
some of
possible.
these have been around a while, haven't they?
Yes, sir, but that is, I guess, the normal, not normal, but depending, because it's requires, again, working with other departments.
Posting.
Yes, sir, and finance.
Posting out.
Correct.
Then, okay.
Yes, sir.
Are you getting what you believe to be enough qualified candidates for these positions to interview?
It all depends on the position. It's upon getting, once it closes out and we receive that registry is when we can determine whether or not the pool that was received, we need to, which may prolong the recruitment
Process. Okay, well, thank you, sir.
Yes, sir.
Well, I will say this, as we entered the end of last year, I think we were close to 20 vacancies. So we've made really significant progress, and I appreciate that. And I always consider hiring to be both an opportunity and somewhat of a contact sport. You know, it's good to keep your eyes open for good talent wherever they may be, and, you know, good luck with these, and I encourage people to consider elections as a career, because it's a really incredible opportunity to help further the democracy of our country, and we need good folks, so hope we have good luck with that. Hire well. All right, next category.
Registration. Good morning. For the month of April, we received a total of 15,965 voter registration applications. That's inclusive of online applications, Department of Driver Services applications, and paper applications. The total number of registration applications received this year is 41,364. As of April 30th, there are 844,909 registered voters in Fulton County. 742,844 are active. 102,065 are inactive. In the registration division, there are currently 3 registration officer vacancies. The position for the registration manager, as Mr. Estridge stated, posted and closed. Interviews will be conducted beginning next week. We are currently still recruiting for supplemental staff with the ARC Staffing Agency. In the month of April, we attended several statewide calls with the Secretary of State's office in regards to ESRI, redistricting discussions, and we also attended as a staff poll worker training so that the call center representatives are better able to assist the citizens and the advanced voting staff. Tasks to be performed for future reporting periods. We will continue to do street audits and maintenance of all streets in Fulton County. We have been working closely with our GIS department to ensure that all voters are not only in the correct districts, but also in the correct precincts. So that is a daily task that we are doing. And we will continue to do list maintenance and all other daily operations. This will conclude the monthly operations report for the registration division.
I have a quick question. Now that they have fixed the driver's license format for registering to vote, have you seen an uptick in registrations?
No, not really, not yet. But I will say that in speaking with the Secretary of State's office, if a voter goes in and they select that they would like to update their voter registration, it usually comes into our office the next business day. But being that we are in a, kind of like a too late because we have passed the voter registration deadline, a lot of people are aware of that. So no, there has not been a significant increase.
Okay.
But we do have on our dashboard, because they were received after the deadline, 5,606 applications that we will process. So not yet, but I think that we will.
Okay, great, thanks.
Just to make sure, something you just said, you said if they choose to update their registration, it's not, have they gone back to opt out as opposed to opt in?
I'll have to see, because I spoke with one voter and she did call in regards to filling out an application at the Department of Driver Services. I have to go and update my license soon, so I'll just try to see what the process is. But she said they were still asking her, would she like to update, as if there was an option. So I can't confirm or deny that because I haven't been in.
Okay. I do have a second, because your understanding is that they've gone back to opt, I thought they went back to opt out. So it's automatically, and I'm not saying you're not correct, I'm just saying my understanding is that they've gone back to opt out. So when you go and you update your driver's license, it automatically registers you to vote.
It automatically
or
updates.
it.
But if a voter calls in and they say that they had another option.
Right.
I'm just saying, I'm not certain whether or not that process has changed, because what we could do is we could reach out to them to see. We do have a point of contact at the Department of Driver Services to see, has that process been updated or changed? But a voter just happened to, well, a couple voters just happened to call in, and then I took the escalated call.
Well, I kind of trust that when you go, you'll know too, so.
Yes, I will.
We'll
I'll
check
test
in on
it
you.
out.
Yeah.
Second, the registration cards, the updated voter registration cards, have those gone out yet?
No, sir, they have not.
And we're still waiting on them to come from the Secretary of State's office so they can be mailed out?
Yes, so we checked with the Secretary of State's office on yesterday and asked them to provide us with an update. So what we're trying to do, Nadine requested that if they at least prepare the precinct cards, we're willing to go and pick them up wherever they are from the vendor so that we can get them back to the office in order to QC them and get them mailed out immediately.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
I think there's also been some discussion about, we'll take partial boxes at this point.
Yes.
The precinct card.
Ms.
We can
Marshall, let
just-
me ask you real
Yeah.
quickly, in terms of the DDS, the opt-in, opt-out process, is that a directive that would come from the SOS?
I would
Or
believe
what
so,
agency
because
does
that's,
that come from?
Yeah.
I would say from the Secretary of State's office, because that's how we receive the applications. So when a voter goes in and they opt in or opt out, however it's going now, we receive those applications via our dashboard from eNet. So
Yeah.
I would believe it comes from the SOS. Yes, sir.
Okay, all right, thank you.
The work that you're doing with the folks in GIS with regards to the redistricting and making sure people are in their correct precinct, I know that you have the spreadsheet that you also are keeping up to date. How often are you having to change or update that spreadsheet?
So in regards to the spreadsheet that you are speaking about, there is no updates or any revisions being made to that. That spreadsheet is set in stone.
Okay.
So we ensure accuracy with the GIS before we had the ballots built. So our ballot builder, the poll pads are correct, everything is good, so there are no updates being done to that particular spreadsheet. But what we are doing is, when a voter calls in and they have a discrepancy, I am communicating with GIS to say, hey, there's an issue possibly in this precinct, could you please provide all of the street segments? And then for every person on that street in that precinct, we go ahead and ensure accuracy in their record.
Okay,
But
so
there's
you're
no
checking,
updates.
making sure that whatever's in that spreadsheet is updated in that voter's record to make sure that they're in the right place.
Yes, that
Yeah.
is correct, yes,
Okay,
ma'am.
great, thank you.
You're welcome.
And I do know that that has been a tedious piece of work, so I really appreciate your diligence on that.
You're more than welcome. Other questions? Okay. Did you have one?
I'm going to pop this question in now, because if not, I'll probably forget, even though as important as it is. I want to go back to this scanner on, scanner off issue. On April the 29th, as a memo that's found in the Firefly Buzz section, Elections Director Blake Evans issued this message, and the third bullet in it refers to turning the scanners off at night. Now, I know we've had those discussions, and I have seen where there has been email communication to Mr. Evans, but I have not seen his response as to whether or not what their position is with regards to either, leaving the power on these units or powering them down at night. Have you heard anything more from them regarding this subject?
Yes, we have. We told them what our plan was. They had no problem with that. Just to be clear, even though we leave the scanners on, the scanners are secure. They're sealed. Every evening, poll managers are instructed to check the count. When they seal them, they check the count when they come back in the morning. They have to run a tape that is, what's the name of the tape? I'm sorry, Dominic. The status tape that gives the actual count on the scanner. So it's completely secure. It has been approved by the SOS, and I will forward that email to you.
Okay, I was on that string, but I never saw a response.
Yeah, I will forward
And I
that to you.
appreciate that. Along those lines, just for the public, because we hear stuff, is there any internet capacity to any of that equipment?
No, there is not. Unfortunately, there was an email sent by a poll clerk that sent out false information in regards to scanners. So no, scanners nor BMDs can be connected to the internet in any capacity. They are not connected to the internet, so that is not accurate. No, none of our staff has done any work maintenance or work to any of our voting equipment in any of the locations after hours, after the poll managers have closed the polls. So that is inaccurate information that was sent out via email by a member of by one of our poll clerks. It was misinformation that was sent out and is inaccurate information.
So, in follow to that, there is absolutely no internet connectivity to scanners or BMDs.
No, there is not.
Is there internet connectivity to the poll pad?
No, there is not. Not at the polls, no. When the poll, Dominic can explain more, when they actually establish the poll pads, they're connected to the, when they program them, they're connected to the internet. But he can give a description about that.
Even though the scanners are being left on, and please correct me if I'm wrong, but the poll manager or assistant manager is still doing their tallies and closing.
Yes, at opening and
So-
closing.
So if that be the case, when poll manager comes and opens the following day, if somebody did anything nefarious to a left-on machine, wouldn't there be some then ability to reconcile that through the opening count? Or
Yes.
the closing count?
Yes, they would have to they have to check their counts whether it's on or off.
Right.
By code. So if they come in there and they see any discrepancies in their count, they are to report that immediately.
Right.
So that is part of the procedure, whether it's on or off.
I just think, and the reason I bring this up, I just think everyone, that needs to be clear, so that people are not calling all of us saying, you're leaving the machines on and hell, people are hacking this stuff.
Yeah, I agree.
It
Unfortunately,
gets to be preposterous.
right, we
to
can
me. I mean,
control,
I've got other things to do.
like, we can control the fact that we know that everything is sealed and secure. Unfortunately, we cannot control people spreading rumors, and that unfortunately happened.
But that's how
And-
come I bring it up, because
Hold
I
on,
just
hold
want
on.
to make sure
Let's,
that's clear
let's-
to the
oh,
market.
Let's take this one at a time. Go ahead.
Yeah, I just want to ask Nadine if you could explain why we are leaving the scanners on. I think that would really help the public understand what's happening and why we've gone to this place to mitigate the issue.
Yes,
So,
I will let Mr. Alomo explain that, because he can do a better job than I can in explaining that.
Hi, good morning. So the reason why we're leaving the scanners on, first during LNA, we found out that the scanners that we have in Fulton County, we have about close to 473 precincts. So the scanner could not process that large amount of data, so it was shutting itself down. So we went ahead to split down the precinct into the city and the county. So we had 2 scanners go out to every location. We did LNA, the ballots were, taking a little time, like 2 minutes to process each ballot. But we did not, put into account the long line, the wait times on the scanner during early voting. So when we got the news from, every location, especially Sandy Springs Library, that there was a very long queue and wait times on the scanner, we started another round of, LNA testing on the scanners, on the county scanners in the warehouse. And we reached out to the SOS, and we got an info about if you scan a ballot style once, the next time you scan the same ballot style on the scanner, it goes with quicker, because the scanner has the ability to cache. That means has a memory of that ballot style. So that way, when the next ballot style goes through the scanner, it takes on average 15 seconds to get that ballot processed. So we decided going forward, we can leave our scanners on, because at the moment you shut the scanners down, the cache clears out. So the scanner goes back the next day to try to remember every ballot that goes through the scanner. This process is not the permanent solution, but it's I'll say to mitigate the wait times on the scanner at the polling locations.
and also, this should not be a problem during Election Day, because the issue here is that in early voting, anyone can go to any of the early voting locations. And so there's a number, we may live in a different precinct, and so it has to remember that ballot. Do you
Correct.
understand what I'm saying?
Yes, I
So
do.
for Election Day, everyone will be going to their precinct, correct? And so everyone will have that precinct will have only that ballot at that precinct. Am I understanding this correctly?
That's correct, yes, ma'am.
Okay, great, thank you.
I think someone mentioned we have 300 ballot styles, is that right? Something like that? Did I just make that up?
No, ma'am. So the data is we have Fulton County being a very large county. We have over 470 precincts. Now, that's the election files. Then we have over like 363 ballot style. So it's like we have more data on that data. So the scanner has the ability, does not have the, the ability to like, do that match like quickly. So that's why it's taking a longer time. And just like Dr. Root said, election day, we have a very small amount of data on each scanner. So it's like we're breaking it down into sections for the scanner to process the ballots.
Thank you. Thank you. All right. One more.
While we're on the subject of LNA,
Dominic, would you just describe what LNA is, please, for the listening public?
Yeah, okay, so LNA is logic and accuracy. That's when we test the BMDs, the ICP scanners, and the poll pads going out for election day or advanced voting.
can I ask my question now? Okay. In your LNA process, would you detect that there was an error when we are now, I think in some cases, defaulting DOB to 1/1/21?
Yes, correct. So, and that issue came up. I personally reached out to Knowing, that's the poll pad vendor, and I was told, like, so to create a project data for the election, being advanced voting, they do not, how do I put it? Okay, so quoting the vendor, he said that is a criteria that needs to be put on the project package. For election day, as we know, your voter get processed using their ID. Right. So that gives you the actual, DOB of the voter. But for advanced voting, what we're doing is just pulling up the combo for that voter to get access to get the right ballots on the BMD. So when developing the project for advanced voting, they need to put in they need to put in the data for the poll pad to recognize saying, oh, they're putting like a generic date of birth. So I will defer to Knowing to that.
Yeah. I'm sorry, Nadine.
I'm sorry, can I clarify that that's not an error? I think you said the word error. It's not an error, it's a default birthday that they put in there, so it's not an error.
I think that I used the term default or error.
Yeah, I thought you said error, so I just want to make it clear that it's not an error.
Okay.
It's a default that they put in the system because of the issue that Dominic just explained.
No, right. Now, but if I'm the voter and I'm at the check-in desk with the poll pad, I'm handed my identification. Is there not a way where the DOB would be picked up off that and entered, just to have the complete record?
No, sir, because as you know, during early voting, we do not use the voter information to pull up combo or ballot style on the poll pad. We generate that via ENET.
Okay.
Yes, so there's no way. Those two platforms, they do not interconnect.
So it doesn't make any difference, is what I'm hearing you say?
It does not make any difference, because
Okay.
what we're doing on the poll pad is just generating ballot style.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Everybody good? Okay, we'll move on.
Voter education.
Good morning, board members. For the month of April, as I see there's a typo on your report, my apologies, that should be April. Everything should be April at the top, where it says March. But we were able to do the following in terms of deputy register training. We trained 74 new deputy registers, giving us a total of 274 for the year. For voter registration, we turned in 200 applications for the month, giving us a total of 618 for the year. We did 51 poll worker recruitments, giving a total for 321 for the year. Voter identification cards, we did 20 for the month of April, and giving us a total of 29 for the year. For our education and outreach events, we were very busy in April. We had 65 events, giving us a total of 130 for the year. Absentee applications, we turned in 70, giving us a total of 70 for the year. However, I do realize that as I was speaking with Ms. Bartison this morning, we actually had not been tracking the numbers prior to April, and so I don't have a count for March, the numbers, when we actually could start collecting them. We always continue to make our connections, so we connected with over 500 organizations, elected officials, and whatnot for April, giving us over 1,700 for the year. And we try to count our event interactions as best as we can and who we're interacting with and doing machine demonstrations. So we did about a little over 1,400 for the month of April, giving us 3,600 for the year. Media inquiries, we had 4 media inquiries and interviews for the month of April, giving us 10 for the year. And I can double check that number for sure with Ms. Waller just to ensure. In April, we really tried to focus on our seniors as we were getting lots of calls from senior living communities as they were concerned about redistricting and knowing where they could vote. And so we spent a lot of time in April going to senior centers, helping them with voter identification cards, helping them fill out absentee applications, as well as making sure we were pulling up the information through ElectionNet and through MVP with them so they can understand how they can pull their information to know that what district they were in, because a lot of them were redistricted and had no idea that they had new elected officials or new commissioners. And so we did a lot of that. We hosted our last poll worker recruitment in North Fulton and Johns Creek in April. And so that we had hosted in every city in North Fulton, so we ended that last one in April. Also, we were making sure, working with our External Affairs Department, they created a great election outreach toolkit, which we in turn, I emailed out that toolkit to all of the elected officials, including you all, as well as our Board of Commissioners for Fulton County, every city mayor and city council member, every school board member in Fulton County and Atlanta Public Schools, every library branch manager, every organization or person that we've held an event with since I've been here, as well as just any organizations in general that are doing voter outreach, just to make sure that they can help the public. As we know, public always comes to elected officials, as well as our different organizations to ask for information about election and outreach. We know if we point them to this toolkit, they can give out accurate information, and so that was the goal. We also, External Affairs also mailed out the mailer, which we made sure each of you got a little bit of the extra overages. We're now taking those out to our event so we can make sure we give those out if people didn't see them. These little pieces that everyone, all the Fulton County voters received in the mail. And we're utilizing that right now at our events just to make sure people understand redistricting and how to look up that information and also know where all of the early voting locations are. We're going to continue doing outreach to our schools to plan some larger events in August when school opens back up to do voter registration drives. But for now, we have been able to work with Fulton County schools as well as Atlanta Public Schools to host a series of voter education events coming up in May. So we'll be doing some of those and then in the following weeks to make sure that those graduating seniors are registered to vote before they leave school. We're also making sure that we're holding events with all the libraries where early voting is not taking place. We've been reaching out with those managers and planning events. We actually at a library today. We were at one yesterday. And so we're just trying to make sure that in any way we can, working within Fulton County, that we can get the information out about voter education and outreach. We'll continue to also work with municipalities as a lot of them have reached out about their upcoming events, their festivals and larger events that they are doing in their cities. They've reached out to us to bring the mobile bus out to make sure we're doing outreach as we're preparing for the big general election now. And so the plan is to really make sure that we've hit every city within Fulton County. And so you'll see us at a number of cities going forward. As you can see the list below of all our events. As always, we're going to continue to do outreach on a daily basis to contacts to make sure we can plan events and get education outreach to as many citizens in Fulton County as we can. And as I said to you all in the email when I emailed you all, if you all know of people who would like for us to host events for them, or if you all would like us to host some different things, just let us know. And that is sort of an overview, and that concludes our report. And you can see at the bottom everywhere we were in the month of April. Thank you.
Questions?
I just have a comment. I spent an hour or more with your VO team at Alpharetta Library the other day, and I was very impressed with the information they had on the display. And it was a little disappointing that nobody came to get registered. But they were, you had, it's a nice group, Kobe and Allie, and we had a nice discussion, so it was very good. So I'm looking forward to when we get into the schools for the high school students, so thank you so much.
Other questions?
Same thing here. We had a chance to hang out for a few minutes at one of the commissioners' family fun day this weekend. You all are doing an exceptional job. Everybody is very helpful, and I know the toughest thing that you had was everybody walking up saying, "Can I vote here?" They see the bus, they walk up, and they just walk in, and automatically the first thing, for like a split second, I was hoping I could, but I knew better. But people were just walking up saying, "Can I vote here? Can I vote here?" And obviously she had to send them to other locations. But great thing you had these flyers to give them so they know where to go, know what to do, and things of that nature. So great job. Thank you.
All right, next.
Absentee.
Good morning. In Absentee, we're continuing to process applications for our registered voters. Currently, today, or as of yesterday evening, I have 6,422 process applications. I have 440 rejected. Duplicates, I have 304. And ballots accepted is 1,760 and 17 rejected ballots. Of those ballots, we have cured 7. So currently we have 10 rejected ballots. People are receiving their notice, well, their mail period, but they're receiving this information very quickly and they're turning it back around. And so that's good to see. I know I voted absentee and I got my ballot like within 3 to 4 days. So that was my test of the process. Outside of that, we have been in constant communication with our vendors, OPEX, HB Solutions, Blue Crest, and in the month of April, well, we started receiving mailing out absentee ballots April 5th, and that was for Uocava voters. April 25th, we started mailing out for our non-Uocava voters, and we're continuing to do that. The last day to request an absentee ballot is May 13th. That's tomorrow, for anyone that's interested in still receiving an absentee ballot here in Fulton County. And I think that concludes.
Questions?
Yes. So for the vendors, can you talk a little bit about each of these vendors and their role in the absentee ballot process?
So OPEX is the cutter of the ballot. So when we receive the ballot back, instead of someone slicing the envelope open, we use a type of machinery to open it. We've been in contact with the OPEX because before we begin to use that tool or machine, we want to do the maintenance on it. And this particular vendor also has other products that they want to introduce the department to. There's a workstation that they have that once you cut it and everything else you need to do, you can maybe scan it in just as a form of record, but that's something that we're still talking about. With HB Solutions, in order to use the Blue Crest machine downstairs, we needed to adjust the envelope for mailing, the oath envelope. So we got with HB Solutions to flip the envelope so that we can actually use it through the automation system. And with Blue Crest, that's the automation system. And so there's an inserter where the mailing goes out, and there's a sorter where the mailing comes in. And so it's just constant communications with them regarding mailing ballots of sorts.
Okay, and then are we using a tracker where people can track their ballots? We're not doing that?
Not at this time, no.
Not, okay. Is there thoughts about doing that, well, I guess,
Absolutely.
for the general?
Yes.
Yes, okay.
Yes.
We
So
will do that for the
hence
general,
the
but not for the early
Correct.
voting. Okay, great.
Other questions? Okay.
I just wanted to say that I know that there were some members from the state election board who visited your workstation with absentee ballot and spoke very highly of the process, and so thank you for that.
Thank you.
All righty. Are we done? I have a couple other questions. Can I go back to training?
Yeah.
So we have been, and I know one of our speakers earlier made a comment about poll watchers and the relationship with the poll managers. And I just wanted to ask Sharon, Ms. Benjamin, how can we improve the tensions so that people who are poll watchers can have access to be able to look at the opening and the closing, to see the tapes that is in the law? And I think the Secretary of State may be sending out some type of bulletin to try to make sure everyone knows that this information is known.
I think you just said it, communication. So Nadine did refer to Mr. Blake to get some clarification and some of the language in the poll watcher guide in reference to what they can or cannot do. We know the basic, but when it comes to being technical aspect of it, we need the Secretary of State to give clarification on that. And when I mention communication, we have to make sure that that is understood. And once it's understood, we now have to implement it and make sure that in training, staff knows what they can and cannot do. Staff do have the poll watcher guidelines at the site, but it's about each person respecting each other at that site and make sure that each person is safeguarded. So once we get that information back from the state, I think we will pass that information on to you. But it's about, communication and respecting each other out there.
Yes, I totally agree. I think that's great. Thank you.
And with this communication, that's communication on both sides as well, because
It has to be on both
it
sides.
has to be on both sides.
It has
Because I've
to.
seen sometimes that even in person, one person feels that they are correct and they're very staunch in what they're saying. So it escalates very quickly from what could be a learnable situation or a learning situation to a confrontational situation.
And we don't want that because we all
Right.
want the same thing.
And that's the thing I think that everyone has to understand is that staff has a responsibility, as does citizens have a responsibility. And unless both sides have a respect for each other, then it's always going to be confrontational. So with this communication, is there a way to help get that information, not just to our staff, but to people who are coming, who may have an interpretation of what they think the law is, as opposed to what the law actually is?
Something we are going to work on. Like I said, we have to sit down and clarify with the state. And we have a team, our external affairs, they can help us get that information out. But it's time to actually fix it before the runoff election and before October election. So this is the time where we have to actually work on this together.
Exactly. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay. Ready to move on? Excellent. Great.
That concludes our operations report.
Okay, great, thank you. We're going to move on to new business. We have a bylaw amendment. I'll read what our bylaw says and then what the change that we're recommending here. Basically, just for the general public, our bylaws are how we operate our business as a Board of Registration and Elections. It is not bylaws about how we administer the elections per se. So under Article 3, meeting, Section 1, what the language says now is that we will certify elections basically at 10 a.m. on the Saturday following an election. Well, what we have found is there's sometimes 10 a.m. on Saturday is not the time when we're able to certify the elections for a whole host of reasons. One, we're not ready to. Two, we can't find a quorum of us at 10 a.m. because some kid's got a soccer game or something. I'm not looking at you. I'm not looking at you. And so in an abundance of caution and just making sure that our bylaws reflect what our intent is, I'm recommending the change that would say, instead of additionally, the board shall meet, ... and at 10 a.m. on the Saturday following any such election to certify results, that we would say the board shall meet, ... and no later than 6 p.m. on the Monday following the election to certify election results, or on a date that complies with legal requirements for certifying the results of any specific election. That's all we're doing. It kind of came up in the context this time around of Memorial Day weekend, finding Fulton County buildings are closed. We're not all here. Just a lot of things happening. So we'll be certifying the elections Monday evening and Monday afternoon in compliance with the law. But I felt it was important for us to just make sure that our bylaws registered, our practice and our intent. So that's all it does. It doesn't change anything about the specifics of how we certify, so, other than when. So the board has received their notification on this in due time. Anybody have any suggestions, corrections? And if you would like to adopt this, I would need a motion.
Madam Chair, I make a motion that we adopt this new proposed language as written.
Second.
Properly moved and seconded. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? There are none. The motion passes. Thank you. I appreciate that. All right. It is now time, I believe we need to consider an executive session for the discussion of new litigation. And hang on one second. All right, so if somebody would make a motion to go into executive session for the consideration of personnel matters and/or discussion of litigation.
So moved.
Properly moved.
Seconded.
Seconded. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? There are none. The motion passes. We'll adjourn to, we'll go out into executive session and come back and adjourn the meeting after that. Thank you.
Madam Chair, I make a motion that we re-adjourn, no, not re-adjourn.
Adjourn.
We come out
Yep.
of executive session.
Second.
Properly moved and seconded to come out of executive session. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? There are none. The motion
Madam
carries.
Chair, I make a motion that we adjourn.
Second.
Properly moved and seconded. All those in favor that we adjourn?
Aye.
Opposed? There are none. We're adjourned. Thank you.